what's it called, really? Stormwater ordinance.
Stormwater?
Yeah, it's very weak, and it's disappointing to somebody like a lot of you guys who, you know, been expecting these things to be done years ago. But it does have a good point. But and one of the problems is we don't have a wetland delineator in the city. So just Monday night, I believe the planning commission, Greg, you were there about anyway, that Jerry Jean Hall's family farm.
Yes.
So that needs to be.
The Riverwalk.
Riverwalk, yes. And you can go out there and if you were just familiar with wetland, as most of you are to some degree, you recognize that there's water comes out of the ground from seep springs all over, and it's got, if they haven't mowed it by now, it's going to show a lot of the native vegetation that a delineator would identify as being at least seasonal in part, and some of it just year-round wetland out there because of the springs. But that passes, and the reason is that the city has no regulations concerning wetland per se. We depend, they still believe, and I believe the planning department people and engineering believe that if the Corps of Engineers doesn't say it's jurisdictional wetland, then it's not significant. The city shouldn't. But my contention is that there should be a person on staff trained for that job, and that basically every department head, because every department affects in its work the protection of soil and water and air and so forth by the way the projects are done. So the city should be leading the charge to see that we truly are sustainable in these ways. And one way would be to have that one person trained, somebody on staff. And yes, it's best if it's a biologist to start with. It could be a stream ecologist, but there's not a stream ecologist on staff. The stormwater engineer is an engineer, hydrology engineer, I believe. So we don't have that biologist you were asking about, Chris, and you're a biologist, right?
My degree is not in biology, but it's in
forestry,
environmental science.
Environmental science,
and policy.
okay. Yes, and that's relatively new, but it does give you training in all those areas. You can identify wetland. You may not have had a specific course that certified you, right?
And I understand wetland delineation. I mean, I had to be involved with that in my prior job. But it depends on the criteria that's used and what set of rules apply, whether it's the Corps or whether it's some other policy or ordinance that's been set up.
Well, now, for instance, you were in Florida. Was there the cities there? Did they have any stronger rules than the Corps of Engineers? They enforced some of them, the counties.
Actually, because groundwater was such an important issue for Florida, they actually have several different agencies responsible for water conservation. And they go far and above beyond the Corps' requirements. You have the water management districts, something like what would be Beaver Water District here. I think there's 4 or 5 water districts in the state of Florida, and they all have their requirements. And then you had some cities or counties had their own ordinance, which was even tighter and more restrictive than the water management districts. So on the plans that we would get to review, would have the Corps of Engineers wetland delineation, and then it would have the SWIFMUD, which was a water management district, and then it would have the county's wetland conservation area. And in the end, when it went to easement plat, the county's easement would be the water conservation easement line.
So I would suggest that we need that sort of ordinance here. Our city, as a leader in environmental things in the region, should have that kind of ordinance, and we should have won't say they should hire somebody to do it, because right now they're not hiring, but they should need to train somebody. That costs a few $100s to go to a fine program at one of the universities
Yeah.
or something. They're advertised online all the time. So.
Yeah, I believe the Corps has some test areas that they have set up, that they have already delineated.
Mm-hmm.
And you then go through a training process of what their criteria is, and then you have to go out to this test area and do a delineation and see how close you come to their actual survey. There may be more to it than that, but that's kind of what I'm aware of.
Well, interestingly, there was a student, and I don't know, he was a university student, but graduate student, and I don't remember if the university here was offering him the course, but that was one of the things, he was using the property near my house, Ken Aspen Ridge, and then Hill Place project. He was actually out there one day delineating as a practice delineation on that property. And he was doing a pretty nice job. And that was 6 years ago or something, before it was actually, changed into red and became treeless. So, that's my point of view on that. And I hope some of you will pay attention to these ordinances that are coming through, and maybe you want to come to council or planning commission and council and comment. Because sometimes I'm the only guy there. They give me 30 seconds or less. We're going to pass
You get a little more than 30 seconds, don't you, Aubrey?
Oh, yeah, always. Thank you.